Yeah, welcome all. Hello, Lucy, Julian, Barry, Madeline. Hello again. Anne.
Hi, Jane.
Mm. Yes, hello, Chris. So, speaking to the two of you on the other side of the Atlantic from where we are, Madeline and Lucy. Um, Madeline had Madeline had forgotten that although your clocks went forward on your side of the Atlantic,
No, I didn't trust the computer. So I
you
said,
didn't trust
maybe
the computer.
now I will have to trust it all the way.
Okay. Right.
No, but I changed the hour I got earlier. But when,
Hello,
because
Alicia.
I checked, there is a site where I can check the hour. And then I didn't trust it. So I said, I don't want to miss the lesson. That's why I
You didn't
tried.
you didn't trust it. I mean, okay, I'm certainly with you in a certain mistrust of computers, particularly at my age.
I also signed on an hour early in the beginning, as I'm in New York.
You did of course, you're on the other side of the Atlantic as well, are you?
Yeah,
Okay,
New
right.
York.
Okay. No, just for ease of memory for all of you on the far side of the Atlantic, that we always change our clocks the last Sunday in March and the last Sunday in October. The last Sunday, so there are just a couple of weeks in spring and a couple of weeks in autumn where either the time distance between us is shortened by 1 hour, as now, or lengthened by 1 hour, which will be in October.
But sir, for us it's the same time, the 2 hours difference from UK to Botswana. How come?
Oh, are you in Botswana?
Yes, I'm in Botswana, sir.
Okay, right. Oh, so,
But it's a 2 hours different. Still 2 hours.
Okay, right. So that's mostly north south. So not
Maybe other side of the not for the Africa countries, maybe.
Right.
Yeah.
And then the time difference will be reduced to 1 hour. Then I think between us and Botswana at the end of this, or the last Sunday of this month. Alicia, I don't recall having seen you before in this. Have you been here before?
No, this is my first time.
Okay, well, welcome, Alicia.
Yeah. I'm not sure I'm gonna carry on with the class, but I wanted to have a test. I'm learning Tibetan, so I thought maybe knowing some Sanskrit will be useful. But I can see that you have already done like 17 lessons, so I'm quite behind.
Well, in one way, you could say that. But what we're doing here, yes, we have had a number of previous lessons, but more than 17, I think, because we go back a few years. But what we're doing here, it's not as if it's like a progression through a grammar book. You do lesson one, then lesson two, then lesson three. This one is more just exposure to the texts.
And you're not the only beginner, Alicia.
I'm not. Okay, good.
No. So may I ask, what is your native language?
I speak Spanish.
Okay, right. Okay, very good.
We're very limited.
Where are you learning Tibetan, Alicia?
I'm studying Tibetan with a teacher online.
I'm learning Tibetan too.
You're learning as well? Okay. So maybe we can exchange numbers and or something, and I don't know if you like to share stuff.
Yeah.
Okay. I put my.
I don't think we can share in the chat. We might have to do it. We can only share with James, but I'm sure James could connect us in somewhere.
Okay.
Yeah. What I would ask you to do then, Lily, if you want to exchange numbers, two things. Firstly,
We could email addresses might be better.
The email address will be easy because also I have a mailing list. And so if you'd like to be on the mailing list, the one advantage of the mailing list is that I send out periodically, well, every week I send out what we're doing the following week.
Okay.
And also, as and when I update them, I send out the texts that I edit, and also what I call this study resources guide, which is just a whole lot of links, for example, to well, including to the video, the YouTube video teaching videos that I have done. So what I'll do now, Alicia, if you would like to, if you want to just email me so that I've got your address, and if you wish, I can put you on the my mailing list, and equally I can send your address on to Palden. So I'll just write. Oops.
Yeah, I was gonna say I don't know your email.
This is me. Oh, have I shared screen?
No, not yet.
No, I haven't yet. Sorry. Command screen. Share.
Okay. I thought you were gonna write it in the chat, but the here is fine as well.
Yeah, so chat's a little bit too complicated for old fellows like me.
Okay.
But I can just about manage this technology here.
Okay. This writing is very pretty. What are you using?
I'm using, this is the
nice.
electronic pen. This is the electronic pen which you have to, which you can write on your iPad. So here I've got my, I'm just holding it up here.
Okay.
The iPad, and I just write on it with the electronic pen, and then I share screen. So I do the connection then from the iPad to a screen.
I see.
And then I share the screen.
I lost your email. I didn't take it. You changed a page somehow.
Ah, I did. Here we are.
Okay,
hold
on. Okay.
The page was just from the previous Pali class.
Yes.
I meant to ask you, James, do you know Tibetan? You seem to speak every other language in the world.
I did study Tibetan fairly seriously quite a while ago. And I got to the stage of just being able to read simple verses. But then kind of other things got in the way, and I let it slide.
I've been doing this exercise as we go through the body Charyavatara. I've got a copy of it in Tibetan, and I've been writing it out, the verses out in Tibetan. And as I gradually learn a bit more Tibetan,
right.
the meaning starts to very slowly emerge. So to begin with, I only knew the odd kind of noun, but now it's just like verse 24 is just starting to emerge from the confusion.
Okay, right. So how I mean, I have translations of the Bodhicharyavatara from Tibetan. Sometimes they very exactly correspond with the original Sanskrit that we're using, and sometimes you see slight deviations from it. So mostly it's a reliable, or rather shows a faithful translation of what the Sanskrit says, but sometimes there are divergences from it. But for example, in the edition that I've done of the the Sanskrit Bodhicharyavatara that you will have, I did in many cases check the translation from the Tibetan as well, just to get different angles on what it actually meant. Mostly very helpful, but there were some verses, as I say, where it had departed. So there we are. So I assume then, Alicia, that you don't yet have any of the materials that I have prepared.
No, I had a look on the page where you have the resources, but to be honest, it was overwhelming. And I thought, okay, I'm just gonna, before I load myself with maybe useless information, I'm going to join the first class and see what it's like. and then I worry about getting the materials.
Okay, then what you say is perfectly rational and acceptable. That's that's fine, not a problem. So what we'll do now, where were we? We were going to.
I
Yeah,
just
we're
want to
going.
say one last thing because I have something I have to do at 3 o'clock, so I may sleep quietly at 2:30.
Okay, yeah, not a problem at all,
Okay.
Alicia.
Okay, thank you.
Right.
I emailed you.
Right then. So, let me just get my brain in order. Gets more difficult as life goes on, doesn't it? What am I trying to do? What am I trying to call up?
Chapter 6, verse 24.
Are you sure about this, Teresa? Because I've just now looked at the piece of paper. We
No.
conclude. Okay, conclude by. Okay, you are right. That was the next thing, but that assumes that we had concluded. There we are, Bhagavad Gita 2:2. Let's call up Bhagavad Gita 2:2 anyway, and there we are, and just see whether we really had concluded it. I think we might have done it, actually. Maybe we concluded it just apart from, was there anybody who wanted to, or I should say, didn't have a chance to recite it last time and would like to do so now? Is there anybody who didn't recite it last time and doesn't quite want to do it now? Don't worry, Alicia. We have a kind of practice. I never force anyone to recite it if they don't want to. However, there's no harm in me asking. Do you have any? Can you just give us a few words, Alicia, on what experience you have had in Sanskrit so far?
Well, that's going to be quick because my experience is 0.
Okay, right. Okay, not to worry. So in this class, Alicia, I mean, on the YouTube videos I've done, there's a whole lot of you'll see those on the study resources guide from textbook, a whole lot of teaching material I've done in video form from textbooks that take you through from point 0 through, and there are quite a large number of those. In this one, it's direct exposure to the real thing, and this is the real Sanskrit text.
Mm-hmm.
So here we are. Just recite it through.
Me?
No, I'll recite it, and then anyone who wants to have a go can do it.
Mm-hmm.
So Shri Bhagavan Uvacha Kutastva Kashmalamidam Vishame Samupastitam Anarya Jushtam Aswaryam Akirti Karamarjuna. So just to explain, Alicia, because you're new to it, in the first box, I have it in the Devanagari script. The first, and the scripts are 2 lots, you see. The first one, we make all the sandhi, the running together of words, which is done in Sanskrit and Devanagari. And in the second lot of Devanagari, we take out the sandhi, so each word appears separately. Are you familiar with sandhi, Alicia? Sandhi, is it? Okay, I won't go through it all now. In Sanskrit, and to a lesser extent in Pali, but in Sanskrit, there are complex rules. You have a word followed by another word. And very often, where those 2 words meet, the ending of one word with the beginning of the next word, very, very frequently, you get changes to the vowels or to the consonants where those words meet. And there are some fairly complex rules in Sanskrit. And because Sanskrit is an oral tradition, very much culturally oral rather than written tradition, the script reflects the sounds. And the script very closely reflects the sounds, unlike in Tibetan, where you have within Tibetan, in spoken Tibetan, there's lots of sandhi and particularly vowel changes. But in written Tibetan, the sandhi isn't applied at all. So written Tibetan is reasonably fixed and stable. Whereas when you're writing Sanskrit, the vowel changes of the spoken language are represented in what is written. So, and then in the Roman script boxes, the first one reproduces exactly how it's written in the Devanagari. The second one, I split the words up. So, for example, this word Anarya Jushyamaswarya Makirti Karamarjuna, because of the way Devanagari is written, it's all written as one long line without any breaks. In fact, it's a number of separate words which then appear like this. And in the third box, I parse it and give parts of speech the analysis of the which part of speech it is. So what we'll do then, we'll just I'll repeat, anyone who wants to recite it can do so now, and failing which we'll just pass on then to the next assignment, which is the Bodhicharyavatara.
James, I had a question.
Yes, please, Anne.
Yeah. The way it's written, the way you write it, the first time it's that one long line.
Yeah.
And did they write it like that because it was an oral tradition and you would just hear it like one long line?
I feel half inclined to say yes. But then why did they do it like that? Say, for example, Tamil. Now, in writing Tamil, they don't do it like that. It's just an oddity. You can maybe I'll try and do a little bit of research on this. I think it partly comes down to the fact that it is an oral tradition, and that's whether that's the whole reason. It's certainly a very large part of the reason. So, for example, if you see this just here, Kashmalamidam is 2 words, and it's written here Kashmalam idam, written here Kashmalam idam. They are two separate words. When you're pronouncing it, you pronounce it Kashmalam idam. You write the words flow on one into the other. But the important thing is, if you take the sandhi out, Kashmalam idam, but here Kashmalam idam, this symbol here that I've highlighted is mi. So that mi is the end of one word and the beginning of the next, written together as one graph, the mi graph. As far as I can see, I can't detect any reason to do it.
It's written, it's like the way it's written very exactly reflects the sound and rhythm of what you actually say rather than the separate words, which is kind of the opposite way around to English.
It is, well, that's right.
That must be about it being an oral tradition or being tranted, mustn't it? That you're just, it's like the spoken word came first without any,
yeah.
and then you captured it in writing in a really, really phonetic way.
Well, that's right. Yeah. I mean, there may have been, for example, I think you've made a good point there, Paladin, that, for example, if you wrote Kashmalam idam as 2 separate words, which most other languages would, however you pronounce it, there might be a risk that people reading it, it's gone red for some reason, might be Kashmalam idam, whereas it's spoken as one continuous flow, kashmalam idam. And it sound, if you didn't know in advance what the words meant, you might think it was a mi sound. There was a word with a mi in it. There isn't. It's kashmalam idam. So why that happened, I don't really know. But what you both said about the oral tradition, it reflects the sounds as they came out is the most likely.
Sorry, James, it's Paula here. Just wanted to clarify something.
Yes, please, Paula.
I understand that the long words here are a reflection of the fact that they were speaking like that. So we're trying to capture the way. But in English, we do the same. We are capturing the way that we speak, in the sense that the words are separated as they're spoken. So I don't see what the difference is between how the Sanskrit is transcribed versus the English. It seems to me that it's the same theory that applies. You write it the way you speak it.
Well, yes, I mean, that's why there does remain this doubt in my mind. So when we had the two theories, that Anne and Paladin mentioning, that's why I can't say, yes, that's the reason why. The best I can do is say that is a major part of the reason why. But why they chose to do it like that, Paola, I remain puzzled. It's difficult. It creates a difficulty. For example, if you see here, let's imagine that it's all in the Roman script. If we're right here, Anarya Jushtam Aswaryam Akirtikaram Arjuna, we can all say that perfectly well. But leave the words divided so we can see where one word ends and the other starts. So Shaktipada, sorry, Paula, look at what is said on your screen. So there remains a slight puzzlement. Was there somebody who thought, oh, it's a good idea to do it like that? And if there was,
but the Germans compound their stuff as well.
Yes, they do, and what they call their sausage words, I think.
Yeah.
But the difference there is that the words that are combined in German represent one particular. They're mainly nouns, and it's just sort of putting it together.
Yeah.
Representing whereas here it's different parts of speech that are stuck together as one apparent one word.
That's right. I mean, even different parts of speech. I mean, words that are freestanding, and so anarya jushtam is a freestanding word, and the next freestanding word is aswaryam. But why run them together? I mean, Barry's made a good point. We do it to a limited extent in English, and talk about rail and way, and we write this as one word, railway, because that is now a separate independent word. So the analogy of German doesn't quite stand up, because there is a kind of valid reason for the way the Germans do it, because it is a freestanding word. Here, it's a matter of phonetic. It's a matter of spelling, in a sense. It remains a little bit of a mystery for me. James, I wish we had the chance to get the people who devised it this way. I wish they were able to express themselves as to why it was done this way.
James, could I just ask, where it's probably a banal question, but would this have been written in ink on paper, or how would it originally have been written? Would it have been something to do with to save, whatever they wrote it on less ink? Because if you put the words all together, you're saving on ink and paper if they used ink and paper. Or do they carve them on blocks, or like the Tibetans?
It varied a lot from place to place. I'm no expert in this, but for example, when you were, I think the earliest examples we have, for example, of written Pali are the Ashoka's rock edicts. And you did have ink on various forms of paper. Down in, and also it varied, you would write on palm leaves and birch bark, different kinds of leaf or bark or even cloth. When you were cutting into, when you were down in the south of India, where the words were written on palm leaf by scratching on palm leaves. Now, Devanagari script has got a lot of straight lines. If you scratch with a straight line across a palm leaf, you simply cut the leaf. That's why if you look, for example, at the Sinhala script, the Sinhala script hardly has any straight lines, it's all curly. Now, that was because you could cut that into a palm leaf without cutting your palm leaf in half. So your materials did influence the way way that you wrote things. Again, I'm no expert on this, but that's the only bit that have been read about, is the development of writing on palm leaves gave right to a more wiggly, curly script. Malayalam as well is another that is quite curly. So anyway, we're straying way outside this field of my own expertise here, but I'll see if I can read a little bit more about it in the meantime. So what we'll do now, we'll unless there are any volunteers to recite it, we'll just move on to our next one. So back to our Bodhicharyavatara. Let me call you up, Bodhicharyavatara. Here we are. That's 24. I'm going to have to leave my desk for a second. I just got the sun streaming straight in. I've just got to go and draw the curtain because the sun's falling across the screen. One moment. Right, so we go now into Bodhicharyavatara, chapter 6, verse 24. Kupyaniti nasanchintya kupyati swechaya janaha utpatsya iti abhipretya krodha utpadyate nacha. So the meaning here is that people don't become angry having made a decision. I have decided I'm going to get angry, and therefore they get angry. So not so. And the second line says very much the same thing. So the subject of the sentence is jana, which is it just means people generally, or a person. It can be used in the singular or the plural, a person or people. So here we says somebody, anybody, a person. Na sanchintya kupyati does not get angry. Na sanchintya kupyati does not consciously, does not deliberately get angry, thinking I am going to get angry now. And swa ichaya, by one's own will. So sanchintya It's from the root, there's a combined root, two forms of the root, chit, from which we get chitta, and effectively a variant, an alternative form of the same root, which is chint, meaning just to think about things. We have the word chitta, of course, the well-known word chitta, mind or heart-mind. Sanchintya is the absolutive form. So with the prefix sam, it means not just thinking, but deciding to do something. Very often we have a root and the prefix sam, which cognate with the Latin con, the Greek sun, often means the conclusion of that action. So chintayati just means to thinking about it. Sanchintayati means to make a decision about it, like to conclude the thinking. And this is the absolutive form, meaning having done so. So sanchintya, having decided. And here it's used adverbially, meaning like intentionally. Having made a decision, so intentionally. So the iti here, we know the iti meaning close quote, end quote. And it's very often used, well, it's most commonly used when you're actually quoting the words that somebody says. You quote his words, iti, he said, like close quote, he said. It's very frequently used, as it were, to describe the thought, not necessarily the words, but the thought that somebody has had, or the fear that somebody has had. So, for example, if you say, I'm not going to go there because it's dangerous. If you were saying that in Sanskrit or Pali, you would say, it is dangerous, iti, I am not going to go there. So the iti then encapsulates like the mental reason why, as well as actual words spoken. So you could insert here, if you're translating this, Kupyami iti, I am getting angry, thus meaning thinking I am getting angry. Or here, with the idea that I'm getting angry, jana, a person, na kupyati, does not get angry, sanchintya, intentionally, swa ichaya, by his own desire. So the word icha, meaning desire, wish or will, this is the instrumental, ichaya, by a wish, by a desire, and with swa, meaning self. So literally, by self-desire means of one's own volition, because one has willed it to be so, by one's own will, by one's own wishing. So a person does not get angry, janah na kupyati, does not get angry, sanchintya, intentionally, having made up his mind to do so, swa ichaya, by sandhi swechaya, by his own will. Thinking, we can insert thinking here, that's not in the Sanskrit, but kupyami iti, thinking, we have to insert that for translation into English, thinking, I'm going to get angry now. And you see, by sandhi kupyami iti is kupyamiti, the E merging with the E. Or you could put into English slightly differently, not intentionally thinking I'm going to get angry, does a person get angry of his own accord? Does a person get angry by his own will? The second line is saying pretty much the same thing. Utpatsya iti abhipretya krodha upadyate nacha, or with full sandhi, utpatsya iti abhipretya krodha utpadyate nacha. In the first line, it's quite interesting the way these are put together here. In the first line, the subject of the sentence is janaha, meaning a person. Here, the subject of the verb is the krodha meaning the anger. So here, nacha and not, does krodha utpadyate, does krodha arise? Abhipretya, having made a decision, utpatsye, I shall arise. So, nor does anger arise, having made the decision, I'm going to arise. Alicia, it just so happens by a slight stroke of bad fortune that you have come in for one of the more complex sentences that we have been analyzing. It's not all as complex as this. This one just slightly more complex than normal. So we have these two words for anger, two roots. Let me just call up the iPad. It's kup and krud. Oops, where's my iPad gone? Ah, here we are. I hope. Yeah. So we have two roots. By the way, for those who are new, when I put this sign here, it's like the square root sign. That's the linguistic convention. You're referring to the root of a word, the irreducible, the atomic, as it were, root. Are you familiar with the concept of roots, Alicia? Okay. For example, let me give you an example
Maybe
from
more like a no, but I'm gonna leave in 5 minutes, so I don't know if that will be worth spending this time.
It will take me a few seconds to explain, and
Then.
this it works in Latin, and it would work equally in Spanish. If you take a very simple word, very simple verb in Latin, amare, and of course in Spanish just amar. Now, you can say that the root of that word is just am. The raíz de la palabra, you would say. The irreducible minimum. And when we write krud and kup, those are not words in themselves, just as am is not a word in itself. That is the root on which amar, amare, amor, all these other words are built. That's what we mean by a root.
Okay. I thought it was something more complex, you know.
No, it's as simple as that.
Yes. Okay, got it.
So krud and kup are two roots, both meaning to become angry. As far as I can see, there's no real distinction of meaning between them. There is possibly a slight distinction in that the root kup has more of a meaning of agitation, and then by extension, anger, whereas the root krud means purely just anger, just means anger and nothing. Kup has the idea of this disturbance as well, like an emotional disturbance. But in reality, there's no meaning that I can detect. Say in a verse like this. So you have kupyati, which is then the present tense. Janah kupyati, a person gets angry. And here we have the noun krodha, krodha, meaning anger. Krodha utpadyate nacha, nor does anger arise. Now, utpadyate, you all know, I'm sure most of you know, there's the conditioned co-arising or dependent co-arising, pratitya samutpada, in Pali, pratitya samutpada. It's from the root pad, meaning to go. I'm sure you all know this, but it's the same root from which it comes into English as the word foot. In Latin, it comes in pedis, French le pied, in Spanish el pie, you say, I think. So it's from that same root, it's the idea of going. So utpadyate, present tense, ut means out or up. Incidentally, this prefix ut is the same as the English out. Etymologically, it's the same word. It means up or out. It has both meaning. So utpad means to arise, to come into being. And present tense.
Can we see the iPad, please?
Sorry,
Please.
sorry. All this time I've been writing, and I didn't show the iPad. Here we are. My mistake. That's right. Just mirror. Pad, root pad, and then utpadyate. Nobody, please don't anybody be shy about shouting at me to show the iPad. I so often forget. In fact, it's usually Paladin who shouts first. But you were asleep at the wheel, were you, Paladin, on that occasion?
I was looking at something in Tibetan alongside what you're doing.
Okay, right.
Which is probably a bit ambitious, and I shall concentrate.
Okay, then, not to worry. So utpadyate is, oops, hang on, let me just, here we are. Utpatsye, by the way, is just the future tense of utpadyate, it arises. Utpatsye, I shall arise. So
sorry, James, what did you say pad means? The root?
The basic meaning is simply to go. And it doesn't come into English as a verb, but we have it as the noun, to go or to walk or to move, but because it comes into English as foot. I think it's to podi in modern Greek.
Sure.
So it's that same word. So it's other languages as the noun for the foot, but the basic verb meaning is going. So nacha and not, krodha utpadyate, does anger arise, abhipretya, having decided, utpatsye, I shall arise. So no, basically it's saying here, when anger arises, there's no kind of reasoned decision to do it. It just bursts up. This future, utpatsya, as we know, mostly the future is formed by the an ishya.
Can we see the iPad, please?
Sorry, thank you. Well done. You shouted at a very early stage then. Well done to you. So normally from the stem bhavishyati, it will be vadishyati, he will say. In some cases, this link vowel I is missing, so you get pad plus syeti, or this is the atmane pad plus se. So pad se becomes by santi pat se. And I shall arise, that means actually so ut pat se. I shall arise. Sorry, it's a I've missed out the silly me. Utpatsye. So utpatsya, oops. Utpatsya. So utpatsye iti by Santi becomes utpatsya iti. I shall arise. Abhipretya. It's from our root E.
Can we see the iPad, please?
Sorry,
Yes.
goodness me. Sorry, there we are. So E, and it's abhi plus pra plus E. So the root E to go, pra-E becomes pre, meaning to go forwards, to go towards something. And abhi-pra-E, abhi-pre, has the meaning of going towards onto something, and then by extension, deciding to do something, making a resolve to do it. The absolutive form, if I think, oops, we got my own notes here. 32. When we make the absolutive, I mean, having done something, as we know, normally you add twa to the root, bhu to be, bhutva, having been. Where, however, you have a prefix, you can have I, itva, you see, so simple as that. When, however, you have a verbal prefix, you can't use the twa, you just have to use a ya instead. So from I, you say itva, but from pra plus I, you can't put on a ya, twa, it has to be a ya instead. The meaning is exactly the same. Let's take the example of from the root pad, paditva, having gone. But if you put an ut in front of it, you can no longer use the twa ending. It has to be a ya ending instead. It's just a rule of grammar that the ending, the absolutive ending twa, is put only onto a root without a prefix. As soon as it's got a prefix, you can no longer use twa. It's got to be ya. I hope that is entirely rational and well understood.
So it would be a aditya.
So just utpadya, having arisen, then is utpadya. Now, there's a little trick here. Where the root consists of or ends in a short I or U or Ri. Say we want to put sam plus I. Meaning coming together. Samitwa in Sanskrit, you are not allowed to do that because you've now got a prefix in front of the root. So you've got to have sam plus I plus ya. Now, rule is where the root consists of or ends in a short I, U, or R, you actually insert a T there for euphonic purposes. So it would be samitya. It doesn't have any grammatical significance. It doesn't change the meaning. It's just an inserted. So itya. So samitya, having to come together. Pretya, having gone over, gone beyond. So we'll just look at this word pra plus I for a moment. So pra plus I, it means to go forth. It also means to die in the sense, in English, you pass over. So in the sense of die. So pra I, somebody who has died, and the word is often used, for example, to mean a ghost, somebody who has gone forth. So the a plus I becomes pre. So praita becomes preta, mean one who has gone beyond. And in modern Hindi, a pret means a ghost. Equally, under this rule that I've just given you of the insertion of the inserted T, this is the past participle. So now if you want to say pra plus I plus tya, you get pretya. Having gone beyond. And in Pali, for example, somewhere in the Dhammapada, idha sochati, he grieves here. Pecha sochati, having gone beyond, he grieves. So certain acts will cause you grief here and after you're dead. Idha sochati, pecha sochati. Pecha is just the Pali pronunciation of pretya, having gone beyond. Now here we've got precha with the abhi in front of it. Abhi meaning towards or to. So abhi precha means literally having gone towards something as a physical act, but as a mental act means having decided to do it, having made up your mind to do it. So this is the explanation then of abhiprecha, abhipraitya, having gone to it and then having mentally, advisedly, deliberately gone to it. So nacha, nor does krodha, anger, utpadyate, arise, abhiprecha, having decided, having consciously made up its mind, utpatsye, I shall arise. And because you're quoting what has been, as it were, mentally said or thought or mentally decided, you have to put the iti there. And by sending utpatsye iti becomes utpatsya iti. So, I shall arise, unquote, having decided. Na krodha na upadyate, anger does not arise. The implication, of course, being there that when anger does arise, it just blows up without any conscious decision.
James, I was just thinking it must be incredibly difficult to act skillfully, professionally, a professional actor, I mean, in order to be able to evoke emotions on demand as per the script, following the script, and to do it sufficiently convincing, really, because I suppose there's a certain intentionality to follow the role.
Oh, sorry, if you're acting if you're
a professional
stage
actor,
acting,
if you're a professional actor, stage actor, or whatever, it just occurred to me that there must be some very considerable skill set there to be able to evoke seemingly genuine emotions such as anger.
There must be a very considerable skill set actually involved in that, and even more so when that really struck me when I went once to see something being done. It was at a BBC studio, and it was one of those ones where an audience is allowed in to watch something being filmed. And there were some scenes, something went wrong or it wasn't quite right. They took several times.
Yeah.
And it's difficult enough if you don't feel the emotion to make a display of the emotion. But then to do it repeatedly and to look convincing each time, that was even more skill. And I remember thinking at the time, my God, that really is skillful. So yes, I certainly take your point. And then, of course, it might be appropriate occasionally to put on a show of anger or a show of disappointment.
Yes.
But there, just there may be nefarious motives behind that. But that's that's, as they say in Louisiana, a whole nother story.
Yes, I remember reading that Gurdjieff was notorious for his show of anger to terrify his students, or it was all just put on in many instances.
Well, it would have been, because a person of his stature probably wouldn't have suffered from genuine bursts of anger.
Yeah,
it would be the skillful use of a display.
Yeah.
And for example, I think it's fairly common knowledge that some ferocious Zen teachers, or seemingly ferocious Zen teachers, will sound terribly angry, but that's just a show to me, because that's what the student needs at that time. Goodness me, I remember within the walls, the hallowed walls of the Buddhist Society in Eccleston Square back in the 70s, with Irmgard Schlögl, as she then was, who later became Myokyoni. In the Zen class there was occasionally the burst of anger, and I was thinking, my God, somebody of her experience and wisdom getting angry like that. And only later it dawned on me this was a very skillful display for a particular purpose, for a particular person at that moment. But yeah, it's a good point you raised there, Chris. It can, there's a lot of kind of mental and spiritual skill involved in making a display of it without actually feeling it.
Yes.
So this now looks at the grammar and vocabulary of this. We'll have some recitations of it, but are there any queries arising out of it?
Could I just say, James, that not
Please,
just it, but I'm finding a bit of difficulty understanding the rules of the word order. It's are there any rules? Like in German, where the verb comes at the end. Are there rules like that, or is it flexible? Which order you put?
It's very flexible indeed. It's a bit like Latin, where the endings of the words will mostly show you what the function within the sentence is.
Right.
Here, for example, I think here we've got the indeclinable words that don't change. The na, cha, iti. These are indeclinables. These are words that don't change their form. But otherwise, here you see, in English, normally we put the subject first before the verb.
Yeah,
that's normal. Now here we've got the subject of the sentence, jana, comes at the end, but it is completely unambiguous that it's the subject, because it ends in aha, which can only be the nominative singular form. It's in the nominative singular, therefore it is unambiguously the subject of that sentence.
Yeah.
And we now have a verb, kupyati. So here we have a verb that is unambiguously third person singular, a verb that ending ati or yati.
Yeah.
And so we now know that this is the subject, the jana, and this is the kupyati, unambiguous. Whatever order they were, you could actually jumble all these words up in a bag and pull them out at random, and you still get a sentence that might read like a very clumsy sentence, but the meaning would still be here.
Yeah.
And here we've got swichaya, which is by simply swa ichaya. Okay, so we've got icha, a well-known verb icha, meaning a wish or a desire. Ichaya, this is the instrumental form of it, again unambiguous, by swa icha, by one's own desire. So this sentence, this part of the sentence, you could put those words in any order, and it would be fine.
Yeah, I understand. I see.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
A bit like Latin, you can, because the ending of the word will mostly show you what its function is within the sentence. So, for example, in English, word order is crucial to your meaning.
In German, of course, the endings show the function of the word, but still the word order is very sort of defined and clear.
It is. It will, because German, it's almost like a belt and braces operation. You've got a fairly well-defined word order, and on top of that, you've got a number of endings, which will not as reliably as Sanskrit and Latin, but to a certain extent, will show you what the function of that of that word is, whether with a verb or declined adjective or noun. So here, for example, you could say the kupyati switchaya janaha, or janaha kupyati switchaya, or janah switchaya kupyati. All of those would be perfectly good Sanskrit, and it doesn't particularly matter what order that they're in.
Yeah.
And here you could put the na in front of the kupya, na kupyamiti sanchintya, would be equally good. Or na sanchintya kupyamiti wouldn't be quite so natural, but still good enough Sanskrit, and you wouldn't disturb the meaning. And again here, if you look in this, you have krodha, utpadyate nacha. Here again, why is it? Just tried to highlight it and it went red. Anyway, not to worry. Again, krodha utpadyate. Again, although it doesn't have the visarga at the end because it's dropped out by sandhi, you don't say krodha krodha utpadyate becomes krodha utpadyate by the rules of grammar, but you know equally that this has to be the nominative singular form, because in that form there in the sentence it can't be anything else. You could say nacha krodha utpadyate, or utpadyate krodho nacha, and all of those would be correct. In English, as we know, of course, it's the word order decides what's man bites dog and dog bites man. It's the word order that tells you which is the subject and which is the object. But if you have a language that gives you different forms for the nominative and the accusative, then you can switch the order around, because they will still remain nominative or accusative wherever they occur in the sentence.
But nevertheless, you said that one particular form might sound natural, another might not. So in spite of there not being any rules in that sort of in that clear-cut way, there are ways of putting it that sound more natural than others. Is that correct?
There certainly are. For example, it is in ordinary prose, it is more common, for example, for the verb to occur at the end of the sentence. That's the kind of standard way of doing it. In poetry, that rule is violated as often as it is obeyed. For example, if this were prose, I would expect to see the verb kupyati at the end of the sentence.
Yeah. Yeah.
But in poetry, it can go anywhere. So word order, there are certain more common ways of doing it, but it doesn't have that rigid importance, that defining importance that it would in a language like English.
Yeah. Yeah.
And sometimes that can be used to good advantage by poets, you see. For example, that line, I'm sure I've told you this before, from Thomas Gray's Elegy in a Country Churchyard, where you have, and all the air a solemn stillness holds. Of course, there's not our normal word order for prose. In poetry, it's fine, but it creates a deliberate ambiguity or even ambivalence. Because does it mean, does all the air a solemn stillness holds? Does it mean all the air holds a solemn stillness? Or does it mean a solemn stillness holds all the air? Or are we invited to hold both of those meanings at the same time? Which, of course, in poetry we can. Now, if you try to translate all the air a solemn stillness holds, for example, into Sanskrit or into Latin, for example, you could not create that same ambiguity as we have in English, because the rules of the grammar of, for example, Latin and Sanskrit would force you to put one in the nominative and the other in the accusative. So you would fix the meaning of whatever order you put them in, you would fix the meaning as being subject or object. That's because we don't have these word endings in English that allows the ambiguity that would simply be impossible in Sanskrit or Latin or Russian or in any of the other languages that you change according to whether it's nominative or accusative or the various other cases. Right, where are we? So,
thank you, James.
Should we have a recitation of this verse? And Lucy, you are first in my gallery.
I'm so lucky.
I knew you didn't want to miss it.
Kupyamiti na senchya kupyati zveya ya janaha upatsya iti abhipretya kroda upadyate nacha.
Now, that's very interesting, Lucy, because the second line came out pretty well.
And the first one, a disaster.
I wouldn't go quite as far as to say that. It wasn't quite the same high standard as your second one.
Yeah.
So just read kupyaniti nasanchintya kupyati swechaya janaha. So particular this word here, you seem to find a little difficulty with swechaya.
Swechaya.
Swechaya. Right. To make it easy, first of all, just pronounce the raw word on its own, icha.
Icha.
Icha. And remember, this is a double cha. So not just icha, but icha.
Icha.
Exactly. You have to hold that on the t. Icha. Now,
icha. Yeah.
This is the instrumental. Icha just means will or desire. Now, the instrumental, ichaya.
Ichaya.
Right, very good. Now, this is swa. Ichaya means by one's own desire. Soi meaning self. Oh, you say soi in French, didn't you? Soi-disant, so soi. So it's that same soi actually. It's just dawned on me. It's pronounced the same in Sanskrit and French.
Yes.
So swa ichaya, yeah, swa ichaya by sandhi, no, just the a and the e becomes an e. So swechaya.
Swechaya.
You got it. Yes, that came out perfectly now, Lucy. So can you now just repeat that first line? Kupyaniti nasanchintya kupyati swechaya janaha.
Kupya miti na sinchintya kupayati swechaya janaha.
Okay, you put a vowel in there. You said kupyati. Kupyati, exactly so. Okay, thank you, Lucy. Very good.
Thank you very much.
Julian, do you feel inclined to have a go at reciting? We can't hear you, Julian.
Can you hear me a bit better now?
Yes, yeah, we can hear you now. That's good.
I just had you here on the speaker.
Okay, right.
So kupyamiti na cynthia kupyati va ichaya jana upatye iti abhipretya prodya utpadyati nasa.
Okay, right. I detected from that you were reading from this box here, were you?
That was where I ended up going to, because I think I was having a little bit of problem with the pronunciation, so I ended up going down to that box.
Okay, right. The reason we could tell, because in this box here, I think you all know this already, I give the words in their form without sandhi. In other words, as they appear standing on their own. That accounts for upatsye, which is what the word is when it stands on its own, I will arise, iti. But when you put them together, it has to be utpatsya iti, because a final e followed by an initial e just becomes an a. Utpatsya iti. But otherwise fine. Thank you, Julian.
Thanks, Jay.
So Barry, would you like to have a go?
Yeah, thank you. Kupyamiti na samchintya kupyati svechaya jana. Utpatsya iti abhipretya kroda utpadyate nacha.
Okay, well that came out very nice and fluently. There's just one thing that I do have to caution people against regularly. This a here, as we know in Sanskrit, a and o are always pronounced long. So even if it's in a word where it's followed by a consonant cluster, where in English we would pronounce it short, abhipretya, no, you still have to abhipretya. So if you can say abhipretya.
Abhipretya.
That is correct. Note for the Pali students among you, that rule doesn't apply in Pali. The A and O in Pali are long if they're allowed to be. So they're always pronounced long unless they are followed by a double consonant or a consonant cluster. For example, the word metta, in Sanskrit, a different word is used in Sanskrit, but if metta, which you know in Pali, if that were a Sanskrit word, it would be pronounced with a long e, even though it's followed by a double T. Metta, metta. Whereas in Pali, because of that double consonant, it's pronounced with a short e, metta. But remember, that's a rule that applies in Pali, but not in Sanskrit, where the e and o are invariably long. Nothing happens to shorten them. Okay, very good. So, Madeline, would you like? Thank you, Barry.
Yes.
Come in, Madeline.
Yes. Kupyamiti na samchintya kupyati svechaya janaha utpatsya ityabhipretya krodha utpadyate nacha.
Very good. Yeah, that came out very nicely indeed.
Thank you.
Thank you, Madeleine. So we'll just have one more from Anne before we wind up, because I have to shoot off then.
Try. Kupyamiti na samchintya kupyati svechaya janaha utpatsya iti abhipretya krodha utpadyate nacha.
Right. For this, can you just say itya bhipretya? It's like a tya, itya bhipretya. I got this slight impression you were making an oral break between those words, but itya bhipretya.
Itya bhipretya.
Exactly so. That's it.
Okay. Itya bhipretya.
Okay, I've got to shoot off now, and it's just gone 3. So may I leave it to you next time to remind me which of you have still to do a recitation of it, and that's what we'll start off with next time around. As they say, saved by the bell, Teresa, because you would have been next. Perhaps we can start with you next time round. Okay, very good. Thank you very much to you all, and see you in a week's time, hopefully. Okay, thank you. Bye. Bye.
James, sorry, James, just to let you know, I'm going to be away for the next few weeks because I'm on a training course, so I'll be back the first week in April.
Oh, quite a while. The 30th of April, is it?
First week of April, so it's just 2 weeks.
First week. Yeah. Okay, 2 weeks. Okay, enjoy it, and we'll see you then, Paladin.
Thanks, James. Bye.
Okay, thanks then. Bye.